Now, the First Amendment protects religious freedom, among other things, but a new report sheds light on a widespread practice among Jehovah's Witnesses of using one of America's most sacred rights to shield itself from child sexual abuse claims. A new investigation based on thousands of documents obtained by the Center for Investigative Reporting looks into how the faith has been protecting child abusers in its thousands of congregations and how their victims are fighting back. Joining us now is Trey Bundy, a journalist at the Center for Investigative Reporting. Trey, thanks for joining us. And before you get into the real crux of your investigation here, give us a breakdown of how the leadership structure is set up among Jehovah's Witnesses so people can understand how this works.
Sure. So you have about 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses worldwide, and about 1 million of them here in the U.S. And they're divided here in the U.S. Among about 14,000 congregations. So each one of those congregations, you have a body of elders, and they're responsible for the spiritual well-being of the congregants. They all report to the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, which is the parent corporation of the Jehovah's Witnesses in Brooklyn, New York. That's where the policy is made. All Jehovah's Witness policies emanate from either the Watchtower or one of the other Jehovah's Witness corporations. At the top of that is the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses, which are 7 spiritual men who essentially approve all policies that are followed by Jehovah's Witnesses around the country.
All right, so now talk to us about this de facto procedure for how the Watchtower actually instructs the elders and their congregations to address child abuse allegations.
Sure. So starting in about 1989, the Jehovah's Witnesses at the Watchtower started issuing memos to all elders around the United States, telling them how they should deal with child abuse, and in some cases other criminal matters. But what the child abuse memos said was that any allegations of child abuse need to be reported immediately to the legal department of the Watchtower. That's before you call police. That's before you tell anybody. Over the years, those policies have been reinforced. And essentially what they say is you don't need to call police unless state law requires you to, and we'll determine if that's the case. They say not to warn other members of the congregation if you have a child abuser in your congregation. That's confidential information. And they also say that they lay out a very sort of convoluted process for determining whether or not you're even going to take child abuse seriously.
And, how are these child abuse policies actually formulated?
Well, that's been something people have been trying to figure out for a long time. The Watchtower memos that go to all bodies of elders are never signed by anybody. They're written by committee, by a group of elders inside the organization's service department, which is kind of the administrative branch of the Jehovah's Witnesses. They're all approved by the governing body, but they're never signed by anyone. They're all authored anonymously. So when an elder at a local congregation receives one of these directives, they don't know who to contact if they have questions, except for the society's legal department.
And, what way, too, have they been able to not only, keep law enforcement out of this, but actually take advantage of protections like the freedom of religion, like the freedom of speech, for keeping all of this under the radar?
Sure. Well, okay, so the Jehovah's Witnesses have been sued many times in civil court by victims of abuse or alleged victims of abuse. And one of their frequent defenses is a First Amendment defense. It basically says a judicial examination of our policies would violate our First Amendment rights because these are Bible-based policies. They're Bible-based beliefs. And if you read the memos, they're kind of a cross between bureaucratic language and biblical language, but all the policies are wrapped in Bible verse. So to an elder who reads it, what they understand is that this message doesn't just come from the organization. This policy comes from God.
And talk to us, I don't know if we have time to go into some of the specific cases, but maybe we'll just bring up Jose Lopez. That's what we have time for now. He was molested when he was 7 years old by a Jehovah's Witness congregant in San Diego. And a judge awarded him $13.5 million when his case against the witnesses concluded in October. But, how in particular was this lawsuit really able to shed light on the religion's database of predators?
This was a really important suit. And one of the reasons is because it resulted in what looks like a really rare admission. You had a Watchtower official testifying in the case that since 1997, they've directed all bodies of elders across the United States to report to the Watchtower any known child abusers. The Watchtower has been gathering this information for almost 20 years now, and the information is very detailed. It's what's the person's name? How old was the victim? Does anybody else know about this? So Erwin Zalkin, the attorney for Jose Lopez in San Diego, subpoenaed this database. The Watchtower official, a man named Richard Ash, said that there was so much information, and it was mixed up in so many millions of documents and so many more than 14,000 computer files, that it would take years for them to produce that information, to extract the data on all they know about child sex abusers. Zalkin brought in a software expert who testified they should be able to do it in less than 2 months. And at that point, the Watchtower essentially said, we're not going to provide this. As a result, the judge threw the Watchtower's defense out of court and issued a default judgment, $13.5 million.
Well, certainly incredibly disturbing stuff. Trey, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.